What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. I'm keeping it a little bit short this week because I'm working as hard as I can to get that Halo 5 Mythic difficulty walkthrough out as quickly as possible. As you saw this past week, I released a new mission. It was the mission Genesis, and which means I skipped the mission Battle of Sinayon. I have my tactics for that one down, but there's a lot of RNG in that mission, so I've got to be able to get through that, and I'm going to work on that today and hopefully get that out as soon as possible so that you guys can see the entire game on Mythic difficulty. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. For those of you who aren't familiar with how to submit questions, it's pretty easy, either in the comment section, Twitter, or Discord. And we had a lot of great questions from last week, so I picked 10, and we're going to jump right into it. Our first question comes from the Waffle Man. And the Waffle Man asked, what was your favorite battle in any Halo game? Easily, the Battle of the Ark. And more specifically, when you're going up against the Scarab. I thought that was incredible. I love the build up to it. You have, you're in a tank, you've got two other tanks with you, you've got a Warthog, a Gauss Hog, some of your buddies jumping Ghosts. It's just this massive battle. You've got the Phantom dropship, and of course, to crown it all off, you have this Scarab. It's this massive, massive battle, and I love it so much. And that's one area I could easily see being a firefight map. It's so big and so vast. It's really, really cool, and I just love playing that section over and over again. The battle on the mission, the Covenant, the following mission, when you're going up against the two Scarabs, is my second favorite battle in the entire franchise. But what's your favorite battle? Let me know in the comments below, everybody. Our next question comes from Alejandro Sosa. Again, my friend Alejandro, that is such an awesome name. And Alejandro asks, do you think there would be an efficient way to incorporate Halo Wars vehicles into the FPS Halo games without them being campaign exclusive? Yes and no. I think some of them would do just fine. You already saw that with the Sparrowhawk, for example. In Halo 5, it's of course called the Wasp. It's not as powerful as the Sparrowhawk. So we've seen some integration of Halo Wars concepts into the main franchise. So yeah, I could see that, but also I could see other vehicles being boss exclusives for the campaign, like the Locust, for example. I think that would be a pretty fun boss to fight alongside the Grunt Goblin from Halo 5. So yeah, I think it's certainly possible to do it both ways, and I guess we'll see for Halo 6. Our next question comes from Ganger333. And Ganger asks, Q&A, the Prophet of Truth is voiced by Michael Wincott in Halo 2 and by Terrence Stamp in Halo 3. Who do you prefer as Truth, and also, who do you think captures the character of Truth better? Oh, this one's an easy one. Hands down, Michael Scott's Prophet of Truth in Halo 2. It's such a good villain. I mean, you can't tell at first that he's a bad guy because, he tries to sympathize with the Arbiter at the beginning of the game, while prior to that, he was, saying that he was, that his Safeguard of Halo was a colossal failure, and he just goes back and forth. And as the game progresses, you feel like he's got something in his mind that he's just not saying. The way he sort of just lets the Prophet of Mercy just, get overwhelmed by the flood, and then he straight up lies to his people that, Mercy is with him by his side, and it's just, I wanted to see how that was going to play out because he seemed like such an interesting villain. In Halo 3, he's just gone pants-crapping insane. He's a cartoon version of his former self. I mean, he's just, he's crazy, he's ranting, he's a lunatic. In Halo 2, I felt like he didn't believe in the rings, like he actually knew what they did, and maybe he was going to do some sort of galactic cleansing. Yeah, that can't be taken out of context. And, that's what I thought he was going for, sort of before rebirth, there must be annihilation type of deal. And with Halo 3, you feel like, no, he honestly believes that the Halos will pave the way to the great journey, to the great beyond, and it just feels like such a cartoon and feels like just a comic book character as opposed to the really cool development that we saw with his character in Halo 2. I feel like that was probably one of the most jarring changes between the two games. So yeah, hands down, Michael Wincott's version in Halo 2 was the best portrayal of Truth out there. But what do you think? Do you like the Halo 3 version better, or do you prefer the more complex version that we saw in Halo 2? Our next question comes from Austin K. And Austin asks, Q&A, which Halo game did you think had the most hyped launch, and do you think it lived up to it? Also, what were some of your best memories from a Halo launch? Okay, so I'll tackle the first part of the question first. Halo 3 easily had in my opinion, the most hyped launch, and delivered on it at the same time. And what do I mean by that? So as they were developing Halo 3, and I don't remember if they did this for Halo 2, I don't think they did, but what we saw were the release of vid docs. So it actually gave you updates as to the progress of the game. So you got to see what they were doing. You know, we got vid docs on the squad system for Halo 3, how the enemies would interact with each other and work with each other. We saw, you know, what the graphics would look like. We saw the placeholders for the chieftains and whatnot and their weaponry, and we saw the theater mode, the co-op mode. I mean, the forge mode. It built up and it delivered 100%. You know, still one of my favorite trailers leading up to a Halo game was the E3 2007 Halo 3 trailer, because, you know, you got to see all the gameplay for it. You got to see the scarab that you would get to fight as a boss, and it was very, very overwhelmingly awesome. And to this day, Halo 3 remains to be my favorite game, paired up with Halo 3 ODST, which just further added to it. So yeah, I think Halo 3 was the one that delivered the most. Now, I will say my favorite Halo launch memory was for Halo 2. I actually waited in line for the game for about 5 hours. I brought 2 friends with me, made a lot of friends while I was there. We got to talk about our favorite Combat Evolved memories, our favorite mods for Halo PC. And the 5 hours just flew by. It was amazing. I enjoyed it very much, and it's something that I hope everyone was able to experience with at least one Halo game. So, excellent question, Austin. Always good to hear from you. Our next question comes from Halo 2 Jackal Sniper. I keep holding my head down every time I hear this name because it just brings back memories from Halo 2. But Halo 2 Jackal Sniper asks, Q&A, do you think Joseph Staten will have a role in Halo 6 since Brian Reed was fired? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. Now, from what I understand, and, you know, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, Joseph Staten still does work under the Microsoft umbrella. What division or for what subsidiary, I don't know. At the same time, though, I don't think it would be a great idea to bring him in for Halo 6, primarily because I don't know how involved he was, if at all, with the Reclaimer saga. And so if I were to go with anybody, I don't have a particular name in mind, but I would rather have someone involved that understands the Reclaimer saga and can execute it as best they can. So someone who is familiar with the story but doesn't screw it up so badly like they did in Halo 5, someone who knows how to flesh out the characters, someone who knows how to make sense out of everything and doesn't just rely so much on outside material and exposition to explain it. In other words, don't tell me the plot, show it to me. And that's what I'm hoping that they do for Halo 6. They bring someone in who's got, you know, the talent for it. Heck, you know what? Maybe they should bring in Eric Nyland to do the script for it, because he did such a bang-up job with previous Halo novels, like The Fall of Reach, First Strike, Ghost of Onyx. You know, if they brought him up to speed with the Reclaimer saga, maybe he could do something really wonderful with that as well. So if I had to choose a writer, I think it would be Eric Nyland, even though he's not really a script writer, he's a novelist. But still, what do you guys think? Would you like to see Eric Nyland have some sort of role in Halo 6's story? Let me know in the comments below. Our next question comes from Captain Sirowit, and Captain asks, what was your favorite Halo game to play on Lazo/Mythic? Keep up the awesome content. Well, thank you, Captain. I would say easily it would have to be Halo 3 ODST. And the reason I say that is because Halo 3 ODST had all the great stuff that Halo 3 did, but it was a bit more balanced. For example, Jackal Snipers, like Halo 2 Jackal Sniper, Jackal Snipers for Halo 3 could still one-shot you. They were still more balanced than what we saw in Halo 2, but they could still one-shot you. In Halo 3, even on Mythic, it takes 2 shots. Basically, the first shot would take out your stamina and bring your health down to almost nothing, but it still gave you a chance to react. And that's what I like about it. So Halo 3 ODST Jackal Snipers were more balanced. I liked the way they balanced out the brutes a little bit more. You know, they couldn't just one-shot melee you like they could in Halo 3. It felt like a more balanced version of Halo 3. So ODST was more fun. The only mission I had a real problem with was Coastal Highway, and I actually got to speak to the designer of that mission several years ago, and we're still friends today after that conversation. That still surprised me. But yes, Halo 3 ODST is my favorite game to play on Lazo or Mythic. So our next question comes from Dale Lee Nixon. And Dale asks, Q&A, so I'm thinking about which Halo campaign I should complete on Legendary. I've done Halo 3 ODST, but which one should I do next? Love your videos and keep up the great work. Thank you, Dale. Well, since you just did Halo 3 ODST, to make the transition easier, I would say go with Halo 3 next. And the main reason you want to do this is because you're already used to the enemies to a point, you know? I mean, you're going to be dealing with brutes the same way in Halo 3 that you did with ODST. You're going to be dealing with grunts and jackals the same way, and hunters as well. There's only small minor changes between the two games. They've tweaked it to be a little bit more balanced in Halo 3 ODST, but the enemies still fight primarily the same, and you deal with them primarily the same way in the standard Halo 3. The only main difference there is you don't have health, you're just relying on your shield. And of course, with Halo 3, the jackal snipers are a bit tougher, the brutes are a bit tougher, but you also have more allies to help you out in a lot of places. So I would say, yeah, from where you are now, I would start with Halo 3, and then after that I would backtrack and do Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2, because Halo Combat Evolved, in my opinion, had the most balanced, challenging version of Legendary that I've seen in any Halo game. Halo 2 was brutally unfair. It actually took me about a month the first time I beat Halo 2 on Legendary because it was so difficult, primarily due to just how powerful the enemies were and how magically accurate those jackal snipers were and the boss fights and whatnot. But if you can master those two games on Legendary, the rest will be a piece of cake to you. When I played Halo 3 on Legendary for the first time, keep in mind, I just said it took me a month to do Halo 2 on Legendary. It took me 2.5 days of casual play, so 3 days of casual play to beat Halo 3 on Legendary, because at that point I was so seasoned with the franchise, and Halo 3 was so much easier compared to those two that the rest was just a cakewalk from there. So yep, I would start with Halo 3 and then go back and do Combat Evolved in Halo 2, and then just chronologically work your way up from there. So excellent question, Dale. Always good to hear from you. And by the way, don't forget, The Walking Dead returns this Sunday. Sorry, every time I see him, it makes me think of Daryl Dixon. So always good to hear from you, Dale. Thank you. Our next question comes from Nebulous Cheetah. And Nebulous Cheetah asks, do you think Halo 5's failure is the community's fault? Oh, God. Yeah, I better answer this one correctly. Absolutely not. That is 100% on 343 there. They ran sort of a deceptive marketing campaign. The writing for the story was absolutely terrible. Probably the worst I've ever seen. I would say Halo 5's story is even worse than Halo's Spartan Strike, and that didn't even have a story, so that tells you something right there. No, that was complete. I don't know what it was in particular. Maybe they had some developmental changes at the last minute. It seems like it went through development hell. I don't know how accurate that is, but it seems like we saw a lot of changes in Halo 5 from its first announcement, which was way too early, all the way to its release. So yeah, that's not the community's fault on that one. That's 100% on 343 Industries. And I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on what you think happened to Halo 5 in the comments below. Our next question comes from Aspiri. And Aspiri asks, Q&A, hey Tyrant, I'm finally able to play Halo SPV 3 and loving every little bit of it. I was just wondering, what is your favorite aspect of the game? Mine is that it keeps you on your toes due to the fantastic level redesigns. You pretty much nailed it right on the head. What I love about Halo SPV 3 so much is that they basically redesigned the game in a way that's balanced, and it works for the most part, with a couple of exceptions here and there, but it still feels like Halo. I mean, it still baffles me today that this game, this group of freelancers got together and was able to recreate a Halo experience better than the current developers. No offense, 343, but yes, the SPV 3 team absolutely nailed it. Now, to be fair, they already had a platform to go on. You know, Halo SPV 3 is basically just a super enhanced version of Combat Evolved, but what they did so well is they redesigned the missions, made them feel organic to the original missions, so they didn't feel like they were tacked on there or, you know, just kind of like shoved in there all, you know, at the last second or anything like that. It felt very, very smooth, and I loved that transition. And so, you know, they have the new enemies, the new weapons on top of that. It feels like there's something always to do. I love the way they redesigned the library by having the Covenant in there. That was fantastic. I love what they did with the Maw, how they made some sections really creepy and you know, scary, and they did such a good job. The soundtrack for the game is also amazing, so I got to give major props to the gentleman who designed that. So that was fantastic as well. Just I would say overall the commitment, the level design, the package deal as a whole is really something that you've got to check out. If anyone here hasn't played Halo SPV 3, it's available for PC. It's a free download. Definitely check it out. I highly encourage it, and I'm sure you're going to have an absolute blast playing it. And our final question of the week, our star question, comes from Xbox One X. And Xbox One X asks, if you worked at 343 and you were somehow able to get Bungie's old graphics engine back for upcoming Halo games like Halo 6, would you do it? Because honestly, I hate this shiny polished graphics in Halo 4 and 5, and I could deal with them, but it doesn't feel like Halo. So a couple of weeks ago, this is sort of rounding out our little art style trilogy here. I told you guys that my favorite art style by far is Combat Evolved. I love the way they did it. The ranks of the different Covenant makes sense. You know, it just, anything's easy to spot right out in the open. It looks alien, it feels beautiful, and it just works with the gameplay as well. With my least favorite the following week, last week, being Halo 5's. And I've got to tell you right there that I stand by that. And if I could redesign the graphics for Halo 6, I would completely botch the designs of the Storm Covenant and go back to what we know is good. And that is Halo Combat Evolved's graphics system, their ranking system. Everything about it just felt perfect. You know, you had the different ranks, the elites, the minors, the majors. You could recognize them from a distance. You knew which ones were going to be tougher to fight, which ones were going to be more of a pushover. And, you know, same with the hunters, everything, it made sense, you know. It was a basic design, but it was a design that worked. Halo 2 was really the only game to even remotely follow that. Basically, if you look at Halo 2, you know, one of the few exceptions there is they do have more elite ranks in there, so it gets a little bit more confusing with Halo 2. But if you look at just how the basic designs transferred over, how the minor elites, the major elites, the gold elites, that worked perfectly. And so Halo 2 did it right in that respect, and I feel like if they were able to take that concept and evolve it into current gen graphics, or what would be considered acceptable for current gen graphics, I think that would be phenomenal. I think it would be an excellent improvement. We first started seeing real radical design changes in Halo Reach, and I would love to see a more return to form. You know, I love the elongated helmets of the Sangheili back in Combat Evolved and in Halo 2, and I feel like we need that desperately in the next major Halo title. You know, over the last few years, the Halo franchise in general has lost a lot of its base. Granted, we've gained a lot of new folks too, but if you look at the sales for 5, they've plummeted. I think that they worked really hard to try to have a more return to form in Halo Wars 2, and I'm hoping they keep that idea up and that ideology going for the next major Halo installment. I think it could help them tremendously. You know, I've said in the past that I don't think a new returning to the old art style would bring fans back. You know what? I was wrong. Flat out wrong. I think that, you know, if they focus, they look at the original games, look at what made them so unique and so cool, and they try to bring that to the next major Halo title and stop with this just messing around with everything, changing things needlessly, that we could really have something special. And, you know, I've even said in the past, bring as much of that original stuff back as you can. Don't just start with the art style. You know, Marty O'Donnell, you know, granted he's got his own company now, but he's not working for Bungie anymore. Maybe he could do some side work for Halo 6 so we could have art style and classic music back. That would be fantastic. Someone mentioned earlier in this Q&A, Joseph Staten. You know, even though I would prefer to have someone like Eric Nyland, even Eric Nyland was still part of the classic Halo that we all know and love. He was part of that old lore. And so if you were able to bring that stuff back, the next thing would just be the game design itself. And if they're able to master that, we could truly have something amazing for Halo 6. But they really have to actually try. Try not to think too much out of the bubble. Try not to copy other games. We don't need wall running, because I felt like they were sort of alluding to that in Halo 5 with the mag boots. Please don't do that for Halo 6. I don't know if they are or not. I haven't heard whether or not they will or not, but I hope they aren't going in that direction, because enhanced mobility seems to be the way they're going. And while I like it better in Halo 5 than I did in 4, I still feel like in some ways We need as much return to form as possible just so that we can get our community back, and more importantly, so we can get Halo back. So what are your thoughts and opinions about bringing a classic art style, bringing classic music back, bringing everything classic back for Halo 6? Would you prefer that? Would you prefer the new stuff? Would you prefer something entirely different? I want to hear your opinions, and you can let me know in the comments below, or you can feel free to hit me up on Twitter. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me right here in this Q&A. Thank you guys and gals so much. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, I hope you'll consider subscribing for this channel for more great content right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. I will catch you all right back here next time, and as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.